Meet the Lever Action Legend, a character build which showcases the best way to play Fallout New Vegas. The special stats for this build are 6 Strength, 7 Perception, 7 Endurance, 1 Charisma, 6 Intelligence, 7 Agility, and 6 Luck. This is a pretty balanced stat line across the board, with the noticeable exception of Charisma, because that's always a stat worth dumping. This special loadout will make you pretty good at everything, ensure you have access to several good perks, and provide a solid base to upgrade from. The traits I chose for this build were Good-Natured and Skilled. These are the best traits in the game, and it's rare to find a character who wouldn't benefit from their inclusion. Good-Natured boosts a lot of your non-combat skills, while lowering your combat skills. Seeing as you'll make use of all the various non-combat skills, but the only combat skill this character uses is guns, it's pretty much just a bunch of free skill points. And on top of that, you're skilled, meaning you already have bonus skill points across the board. The reduction to experience earned really isn't that bad a drawback, especially as there's a level cap on the game. You can only reach level 50 anyway, and this particular build can be achieved at level 20, so it shouldn't slow down your leveling pace all that much. The main skills for this build are Guns, Repair, and Survival. Guns is the damage skill that this character will rely on. Get it maxed out as a priority in order to make the best use of all your weapons. Next up is Repair, which is a skill which will keep all your gear in check. Repair is pretty much always a good skill to invest into, as you want to keep your weapons and armour in good condition at all times. Last of the main skills is Survival, which will be the primary healing skill the build uses. This will let you cook up a variety of different meals to eat, most of which will restore a good amount of health over time, and sometimes even grant additional bonuses too. While it's always simpler to just rely on stim packs, food items can end up being far more beneficial, and also make this build very viable to use on hardcore mode. The additional skills I chose are Lockpick, Sneak, and Melee. Lockpick is always a good skill to pick in my opinion. It's going to get you a bunch more loot as you play, open up a few extra routes, and is also required to get access to one of your guns. Sneak is another great skill, which can be helpful for any character. I didn't actually invest much into it while playing, but if you decide to, then you'll have a much better time getting sneak criticals, which provide a huge boost to overall damage. The melee skill will be almost entirely wasted, as you don't wield any melee weapons, and there's very few checks relating to it in the game. However, you will need to raise it to 45, as the Cowboy perk is an essential one, and requires this level of melee skill investment. And while we're on the subject of perks, why don't we go over them real quick. The major perks of this build are Cowboy, Finesse, Better Criticals, and Educated. Cowboy is the quintessential perk of the build. With it, we get a 25% damage increase to lever action weapons and revolvers, which are the two types of weapons I've chosen for this build. It does also boost the damage with a couple of melee weapons and dynamite, but that's unlikely to be relevant while playing. Finesse is a great perk which boosts critical chance. That's it, just better chance of landing crits. Simple, but superb. And with that better critical chance, we also want to pick up Better Criticals, providing a 50% damage boost to all critical hits. These two perks combined help to ensure you dish out deadly damage more often than most. Final major perk is Educated, which is the only perk I'd say you must get the second that it's available, i.e. at level 4. With this you get 2 additional skill points with each and every level up, making it so that you can max out your main skills faster. It's the perk basically every New Vegas character will end up with, because why wouldn't you take it? Onto the minor perks now: Black Widow, Jewelry Rigging, Rapid Reload, and Sniper. Minor perks are still ones I recommend taking for the build, but unlike the major ones, they aren't as big a priority to rush towards. Just unlock them when you can. Black Widow is the first of these perks, and it's a pretty handy one throughout. An extra 10% damage against all men comes in incredibly clutch when dealing with the Legion, and the odd bonus dialogue can come in handy, especially when tracking down Benny. Definitely not the best of these perks, but a solid one to have while playing. Jewelry Rigging helps out with keeping your gear repaired. Rather than having to use another of the same item to fix one you're using, you can instead use something that's just in the same category. This is easily one of the most popularly picked perks in New Vegas, as it just makes the whole repair system so much easier to handle. If you have a tough time keeping your gear in nick, then this perk should be a priority. Rapid Reload lets you reload your guns rapidly. For a character who has to reload their guns one bullet at a time, this boost of speed is invaluable. I find it makes the reloading animation look a little less cool, but it's a worthwhile trade-off for the gameplay benefit it provides. Final minor perk is Sniper. This grants you a 25% accuracy bonus to headshots in VATS. I found myself relying a little more on manual shots than Vault-Tec assisted ones while playing, but whenever I did use the targeting system, I made sure to go for headshots. With this perk, they tend to be about as accurate as body shots, but with the added advantage of significantly more damage. Onto the role-playing perks now, and these are the ones you can feel free to leave out if you wish, but they do still add a little something to the character. First is Comprehension, which gives you an additional skill point from skill books, and doubles the game from reading magazines. This is a decent bonus to have, helping you to get your skills raised early, but it really relies on you picking up magazines and skill books regularly to be worthwhile. If you're a lootaholic, then yeah, great, go for it. If not, then maybe consider something else. The other role-playing perk is Quick Draw. This lets you equip and ready your weapons faster. Considering you've got 5 different weapons to switch between, it's definitely not a wasted perk, but the difference it makes isn't really that noticeable. Pretty cool to know that you've got the fastest draw in the West, but being fastest on the draw isn't what actually wins most fights. Onto equipment now, where we have both weapons and armour to go over. And in terms of weapons, there's quite a few to talk about. First up is the lever action shotgun. This is a surprisingly easy shotgun to get, and one which packs a serious punch thanks to the added damage from Cowboy. The major downsides of this weapon are that it can only house 5 shells at a time, and you have to reload them individually, so if you don't manage to kill your enemy before having to reload, you can get caught out. Like with any shotgun, you're going to want to be within spitting distance of your target for it to be worth using, otherwise you'll want to switch to one of the other options. Weapon number 2 is Lucky. This is the unique variant of a 357 Magnum revolver, and it's just an all-round better version of that gun. This is one of the best revolvers you can hope to get, being a great mid to close range weapon that can swiftly wipe out approaching enemies. In order to get your hands on this gun, you'll need to head to the Bison Steve Hotel in Prim and look for a floor safe. It's behind a hard lock, meaning you will need a lockpick skill of 75 in order to crack it open, but if you can raise the skill a bit early and then pop a magazine to get the rest of the way there, then this can be your main weapon early on. Moving more into the mid-range weapons, we have the Abilene Kid LE BB gun. Yes, this is a BB gun. No, it is not useless, at least not all the time. Generally speaking, it will only deal a single digit of damage, but if you land a crit, then suddenly it can dish out over 100 points of damage. This makes it a surprisingly good sneak attack weapon, and with how cheap the ammo is, it's not like you're sacrificing much to use it. And in order to get this weapon, all you need to do is head to Field Shack, located northeast of the strip. Penultimate weapon is the Medicine Stick. This unique variant of the brush gun is insanely strong. You'll see me rely on this as my main weapon in the footage, as it takes down most enemies in just a single shot or two, and feels so damn good to fire. This is the weapon for the build, as it's flat out amazing. The only real problem is that to get it you need to buy it from the Gunrunners Vendertron, which will cost a lot of caps. And then you'll also need to buy lots of the ultra rare 45-70 government rounds. You aren't going to find these commonly while out and about, so instead you'll need to buy them whenever you get the chance to. This means this weapon is a real pricey one to both acquire and keep using, so make sure to do whatever you can to make some caps. Final weapon for the build is a Trail Carbine. This lever action .44 firing rifle may not have a unique variant, but that means we can instead use the game's weapon modding system in order to put a scope on it. With this equipped, we now have a lever action sniper rifle, meaning we have every range covered. With the weapons all sorted, it's now time to talk about armour and other apparel. The main armour piece is the Desert Ranger Combat Armour. This is a piece of medium armour with very high damage threshold, making you surprisingly hard to kill. Sadly, the armour doesn't come with any added effects, so it's not technically the best choice for this character, but it looks really cool, and fits the desert-dwelling badass cowboy theme I was going for. And when we get right down to it, that's what really matters. In order to get your hands on this armour, you'll need to head into Honest Hearts and find it in the Stone Bones Cave. In addition to this, you'll also want to pick up a Desperado cowboy hat and sunglasses. These are also mostly for aesthetic choices, but the cowboy hat does at least grant a bonus point of perception. The main faction I chose for this build was the NCR, primarily because Rangers are cool and about as close as Fallout gets to cowboys. That being said, the lever action legend isn't a character who's super tied down to this faction, so feel free to help others as you play, even if it's not in the NCR's best interests. And if you really don't like playing for the Republic, then you could always play this build with House or Yes Man, although I don't think Caesar's Legion would fit. When it comes to followers, I went with Raul. This ghoul starts out as a mechanic, but with the right guidance can become a badass gunslinger to fight by your side. Give him any spare revolvers or lever action weapons, and he'll be incredibly effective with them. And all the time he's with you, your weapons will also be losing condition slower, meaning they need to be repaired less frequently. He's just an all-round great follower to have, quite honestly. If you want to make sure he gets his fancy outfit, then I'd recommend checking his wiki page, as it's quite the specific undertaking, with multiple steps that would be a bit much to go over here. This character is a high damage, fast shooting badass. If you can consistently land your shots, then nothing will stand in your way. Problem is, you do actually need to be able to land your shots. You have decent perception and agility, which means that you should do alright inside of that, but how well you do the rest of the time depends on your own personal player skill. If you're a decent shot, then this build can be among the strongest you'll ever play. But if you don't have the best accuracy when playing, then this could be a bit of a struggle for you. This makes this particular build a real satisfying one to play if you have the FPS experience, as you're rewarded for your prowess. As this build is one that only requires level 20 to work, it does mean you have a lot of wiggle room if you want to alter anything more to your own personal style. In particular, if you do struggle with manual aiming, then you can always seek out some perks that help you to stay in VATS for longer, so you can rely more on that for combat. And, as always, don't forget to visit the New Vegas Medical Clinic and get yourself some implants in order to raise your special stats, and maybe even make yourself a bit tougher too. When it comes to role-playing, you just want to wander the desert, being a Class A badass. Have I said badass enough this video? No, badass, badass, badass. Save citizens, shoot the bad guys, and look good while doing it. This character is more of a morally neutral character than a morally good one, as they're very much about doing what they want, but they still should gravitate towards helping people, as long as those people don't annoy them. The lever action legend wasn't always the incredibly cool and devastatingly dashing woman you see before you today. As a young girl, she lacked all the confidence she has now, and was instead shy and introverted. She spent her early years reading comic books about legendary cowboys and the days of the Wild West. They were her heroes growing up, individuals who single-handedly could tackle any task with their quick thinking and even quicker trigger fingers. In the harsh wasteland she was born into, she always knew just how important it was to be able to defend yourself. Her parents made sure she knew how to look out for herself, not only teaching her how to shoot a gun, but also to keep it in good condition when travelling through the sandy desert. They also made sure she could cook up any of the animals they'd hunt while travelling around, as it's no use being able to fight off raiders if you don't know how to keep yourself fed. Her parents ran a successful caravan for many years thanks to this level-headed thinking, leading to them being some of the very few people in the post-apocalypse who were basically able to retire. They'd done their time wandering the wastes and could enjoy their twilight years in peace. The lever action legend wouldn't have been able to run the caravan by herself, so instead she went out on her own, exploring the West and doing whatever job she could find. It was during this time that she ended up working as a courier. It was a good job for a time, but as we all know, her final delivery did not end so well. After surviving Benny's attack, she will re-enter the wastes and seek vengeance, much in the same way her childhood heroes would have. With a newfound confidence, she will walk the deserts, never again letting herself be put down in the same way. And that was the lever action legend. If you enjoyed this build, please leave a like on the video, and also check out some of the other Fallout builds on my channel. There's a couple more New Vegas ones, and a whole bunch for Fallout 4. If you want to see more character builds from a variety of games, then subscribe, and check out my Patreon page if you want to support further. Also, apologies if I sound weird today. I don't know why, but I sound weird to me. Do I sound weird to you? If you're a first time viewer, probably not, but the loyal viewers will be like, Sarge sounds weird. I'm rambling. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.